It is now 7:01 on Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting of the Common Council's Land Use and Building Management Committee to order. First item is roll call. I'll just announce the member. Mr. Burnett, Mr. Hoover, Mr. Keegan, Ms. Smith, and myself, Tom Livingston, the chair. Also with us from the Common Council are, looking at this, Dominique Johnson, Nora Najilski Eichner, Darlene Young, Lisa Shanahan. Did I miss anybody from the council? No, I don't think so. Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Tom.
Yes.
There's somebody with a phone number. Do we know who that is?
That would be me.
Okay. All right. So first item of the next item is public participation. Is there anyone signed up to speak at this meeting?
I did not receive anybody who wanted to speak tonight.
Is there anyone waiting to speak at the meeting?
I see two attendees with one hand raised.
Okay, then let's allow them to speak, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Diane Lauricella. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if you can see me, but
we can see part of some animal.
it's a puppy's head. I don't know how. There's no cue or icon for me to.
That's all right.
Okay. So anyway, I'm sorry. For the record, my name is Diane Lauricella. I wanted to wish you all a happy new year, including staff. I often appear in front of this important committee on occasion to offer solutions to many of our challenges in relating to our land use and our buildings. So tonight, I just wanted to offer some clarity on many, I know I only have 3 minutes, but many of the items mentioned, just some clarity, because I do believe in informed votes when you have the facts and when you have more information. So the first one, under new business A, proposed South Norwalk Elementary School. I don't know whether the executive session is to talk about that for land acquisition in item D, but I think it's very important to make sure that the actual design and design elements, such as use of renewables and green building design, is allowed, that the public is allowed to participate. For the record, I have filed a Freedom of Information complaint because I believe that the current model that our city uses for school construction advisory committees is a public meeting, and it should not be a private meeting. And later on in the year, you'll find out, as I discuss this with both the chairman and the city, that we need to open up the minds. There are a lot of people in our town that have backgrounds like I do and have been trying to help our city go into the 21st century. On item B, under Cranberry School, for clarity, I read the minutes and other reviews. I just wanted this committee to know that it is my knowledge that the actual agreement has not been signed yet in writing between the neighborhood association and the city of Norwalk. And of course, Alan Lowe could clarify that. And it is not just 3 neighbors. It is a neighborhood association called the Cranberry Preservation Association. And they have this designated school building committee that if they had opened it up to the public, a lot of the issues that occurred would not have happened. Number C, letter C, Jefferson School. I was lobbying for the solar, and I think it's a great idea to put solar on as many schools as possible, but our current very ultra conservative way of looking at renewables must end. And I look forward to speaking to various members of the council and the city to finally get this wrong-headed view of sparingly using solar panels, we are 10 years behind other school districts like Fairfield and Danbury and Newtown. And I have those facts. D, land acquisition. If the rumor about where the South Norwalk School might be going, I believe it is in a 100-year floodplain. And while, yes, we can build in any kind of situation, we have to make sure that we are not within a floodplain when we use public money. Lastly, I just wanted to mention under letter E, building management. I hope that this esteemed group of council people and those additional council on this call will look at the issue of 10 Tito Court, why it was even purchased, and the fact that we should develop either an ordinance or a policy that never again allows an industrial polluted site to be used as an excuse for purchasing open space. I think I was so surprised that the city thought they could replace the Ely School open space with polluted industrial space. I think that's a wrong-headed policy, and I'm looking forward to helping all of you understand what the open space swap policies of the state of Connecticut could help us achieve in the future. So I thank you for all your hard work, including staff, but I want clarity and facts to be on the table when you all make your votes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Loratello. Anyone else sign up to speak? Is there anyone else? Is any member of the committee aware of any comments to be put in the record? All right, hearing none and seeing no one, I'll close the public participation and move on to the approval of the minutes of December 1st, 2021. Do I have a motion? Anyone? Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any comments, revisions, changes to these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 2, 3. Who am I missing? Any abstentions? Any opposed? Oh, Ms. Hyde, ultimate abstaining? Is that correct?
No, I was just raising my hand. I just don't have my
Oh.
camera on yet.
Okay, so it's unanimous then. No, okay. All right, moving on to new business. Tonight is the first item is the discussion of the proposed South Norwalk Elementary School. We have with us here tonight the superintendent, Dr. Estrella, and her team. I'm going to let her introduce herself. I mean, obviously, you know who she is, but her team. And I'll turn it over to her. The purpose of this discussion is to learn more about the proposed South Norwalk Elementary School. And we're going to be discussing the item to be discussed is the discussion presentation on the proposed education program for the South Norwalk Elementary School, and refer the following to the Common Council. Adopt proposed Norwalk Public Schools facilities improvement strategy for the development of a South Norwalk Elementary School, subject to the approval of capital budget funds through upcoming special appropriation process. Do you have a motion on that? Mr. Hooverman, thank you. All right, Dr. Estrella, thank you so much for coming tonight, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. So as you probably have, if you've been following the Board of Education conversations, we have been engaging in ongoing dialogue about the importance of having a school in South Norwalk, given the efforts that have been made for a significant amount of time now. We have been in conversations with the city, and we believe we have a viable location in which we can collaboratively move forward to make this a reality. Our intention in doing this is to provide seats for over 800 students that currently reside in South Norwalk that are currently being bused across the district to receive their educational program. And this is occurring, as many know, because there is not a school in South Norwalk to support the needs of that zone. In our conversations, we've had experts like Mr. Zuba, who have provided us with insight in terms of enrollment numbers and patterns that helped us identify the actual potential size of the school, and also providing opportunities for there to be choice, because we know that parents will also decide within South Norwalk to continue to take advantage of magnet programs across the district. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mike Zuba to just update you in a presentation that he provided our board in providing insight in terms of the demographics associated with this proposal, and just looking at what the current need will be and the enrollment impact across the district at large.
Excuse me, before you do that, I failed to recognize Diana Carpio, the chair of the Board of Education Facilities Committee. So welcome, and I'm sorry I left you out there. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Estrella. Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here and walk through this process. I don't know, for those that may have been following along, it may seem that they've seen some of the information before. I know some of it may be new. So as I kind of walk through everything, if there's any questions on any of the slides, put a hand up. I'll be glad to be able to address that as part of the dialogue or at the end, if there's any other questions there, and I could address those as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen and then begin walking through a slide deck that we've used for the last several presentations. Hopefully everybody can now see my screen, and I can get right into it. So we began this process over a year ago with the bulk of the work getting done really in the first 9 to 10 months with the first unveiling of the potential options at a Board of Ed meeting. I believe it was in May of 2021. And it really was an iterative process, getting a lot of input, and it evolved over time, not only through dialogue with the community, but also through dialogue with the administration. And this really started with some key objectives. And I know just listening to Dr. Estrella and going through some of the minutes of the other meetings, it's really about providing opportunities and enhancing the opportunity for students to have a neighborhood school within South Norwalk. I know that was one of the key elements that was identified as part of the 2015-2016 master plan that was done. And unfortunately, that component of it didn't come to fruition yet. But really looking at a way to be able to identify what the demographic need is, what the size of the school could be, and provide a mechanism to put the school in place without having a large redistricting burden felt by the remainder of the community. So really, it's been a long process of getting to what I'm going to present to tonight. And really, it's about providing that equity, that opportunity to those families living in the neighborhood, as well as looking district-wide at where additional opportunities can be for expansion of pre-K programming. So some of the strategies that were put in place to be able to develop the plan that I have put forth for you tonight is really to eliminate historically unassigned areas. They were referred to as the 99 areas within the district. They were all located within South Norwalk. As I'll get to on several of the maps later on, there's many satellite zones of students that live on particular streets and housing development within South Norwalk that then get bused to other parts of the city of Norwalk, and really to be able to take a look at all of the buildings, all of the use of the building, and provide better enrollment balance across the district. Because as I'll touch on a little bit later, South Norwalk has historically been a feeder to many of the other schools, or the elementary schools throughout the community, really sustaining the enrollment levels there over the years with the students that are coming from the South Norwalk neighborhood. So with that, I'll just kind of touch on the slide, and it really is remarkable of the number of options that we've gone through, not only presenting scenario 8B tonight, but having several A, B, C's, and some that didn't even make it out to public presentation. So we've looked at this thing extensively and really put our heads together to come up with a plan that really was the best plan, or is the best plan for not only the South Norwalk community, but those throughout the city of Norwalk. So when we got into the neighborhood K-5 elementary school, one of the key components that to be able to facilitate this was not only looking at the number of students in there, but getting an understanding of what a move of the CMS program over to the new Lower Ponus Ridge facility, what would do. So having the additional 450 seats for that K-8 program, they're divided by about 310 K-5 students and about 136 8 students, really provided a good relief valve for the student population there. And it's my understanding that starting in 22-23, that program will be nestled within that Lower Ponus Ridge facility. So that was a big part of both options 8A and 8B, which 8B is the one that we're looking at moving forward on. Also, as well as looking at an opportunity to be able to provide more choice and magnet programming, so to get a better flow of students into pathways and into programs that they have interest in as a way to be able to attain enrollment balance, but also provide educational benefits to the community. So as I refer to South Norwalk, I looked at historical maps and definitions of what the area really is bound by, and I kind of went ahead and came up with my own definition. So you'll have to bear with me on this. So as you can see in the map on the right, I was able to look at all of the various zoning. So typically when you look at a student enrollment or attendance zone map, you see a lot of contiguous colors. So you see a pattern where many streets and many homes and many apartments are all located within one zone. So if you look to the left of this map or to the western side of the map, you'll see this blue color here. That represents the attendance zone of Brookside. It's largely bound by a hard boundary. It has contiguous streets. There's a pattern there. You look to the south and you see this cantaloupe color for the Rowayton School. That has a contiguous boundary, but it also has components that are within this South Norwalk neighborhood. So then as you get into the area itself, you see a smattering of different colors where we have this darker blue color represents Cranberry. So students that reside within this area are bused northward to the Cranberry Elementary School, which, that has an important component on the Cranberry construction project, is there are a fair number of students, I believe just over 110 that reside within this area. You also have this purple area, which feeds the Tracy Elementary School, the red zone here, that's kind of chicken pox or little bits and pockets all over the place, that feeds Wolf Pit. You have this brown area that feeds Silver Mine, and so on and so forth, with just these small satellite zones that were put in place over time to balance enrollment, achieve diversity, stay in tune with what the State Board of Ed is requiring for racial balance. But then you also have down the middle of it these gray areas, which are referred to as the unassigned or the 99 areas. So students that live in residences within that gray zone historically have been placed wherever there's space within the elementary schools based on an administrative placement. So when you really dig into the enrollment there, you'll see that street to street and home to home within that area, students will go to all the different elementary schools throughout Norwalk. So really it's a fragmented pattern. When I ran the calculation, I came up with about 800 elementary students, K-5 living within this box that I've defined, and about 400 middle school students living in there. So that was really for the planning portion of looking at putting a school in South Norwalk. That was used to be able to establish the overall need there.
Mike, just go back for a second. So I think everybody needs to look at that slide. It's probably the most important slide they'll see tonight.
Sure, Tom.
Because it really does show the issues that we're trying to address here. I mean, look at all the different schools that these kids are going to.
Yeah, and it's a fairly compact area. It's not a large area, and it's really kind of, and I understand why it was done to be able to balance enrollment, but there's not a lot of continuity in where the students are going. So you could walk down through a given street and you have students going to all different schools. Not to mention that you have parents within those residents that are having their kids go to schools that are on the far end of the community itself. It's quite unique. I've been doing this work for a very long time, and I've never seen an area that's this fragmented.
Mr. Burnett, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Question, and you might get to this, so I might be ahead of myself, but if I'm looking at this slide, the numbers, approximately 800 K through 5. In the previous slide, you indicated that option B would house 600, and I think it was 66. So what's going to happen to the balance? Are they still getting on a bus going somewhere?
I'm going to jump ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Shea, if you want to go on. I do have
Go
a little
ahead.
bit
You
later
could
on, but
just jump ahead to that point so that you can answer the question. if
Okay.
possible.
So when we looked at everything, what we wanted to be able to do was establish a need. So based on the K-5 model for the school, it's 682, well, pre-K-5 with 650 K-5, 32 pre-K students. When we looked at our scenario 8B, we still have a deficit there of about 170 seats. But we also do know, Greg, that there are a number of opportunities there throughout the community to be able to draw students through different programming. And, you know, looking at the historic draw of, say, the Silvermine program, we had about 95 students there that would travel up there, up to Silvermine for that program, as well as others throughout the community. So what we were doing as part of this was to be able to balance the right size of a school with also being able to identify what could be a draw of students to be able to draw them out of South Norwalk to be able to go to some new programming options. And if you could bear with me, I'll just jump ahead a little bit on our scenario 8B, and that will do a good job of answering your question. So what I did was I went ahead and I took all these fragmented areas and I created in this sort of pink color, and it looks a little Pepto-ish on my screen now, but in this pink color is looking at this cohesive South Norwalk school zone. So we have the 800 K-5 students, we have 400 6-8 students. We also know that several of those students attend the Columbus school, which will now be moving, the Columbus Magnet School will now be moving over to Lower Ponus. So that'll have an impact on lowering that total number of students down a little bit, especially before the construction occurs. But we also looked at a way to be able to free up some space. So when I showed the area on the map and we had the Cranberries, these Cranberry satellite zones sending about 110 students north to Cranberry, by undoing that as part of the rezoning effort and creating a cohesive neighborhood, we needed to be able to add students back into Cranberry to be able to get it close to its target of 460 students. So it had a big impact on all of the schools. So what we did is we wanted to be careful, and we identified some areas for redistricting in order to be able to then free up space to allow for other programs. So you'll see this large call out box in the upper right, where we identified an area between Cranberry and Wolf Pit School to move a number of students from Cranberry, from Wolf Pit to Cranberry, in order to help kind of hold that population level at Cranberry, while freeing up some space at Wolf Pit, which is now slated to become a magnet school or choice school, which will then have room to draw students from throughout the district, but also from South Norwalk. So in order to be able to have a little bit of a push and pull as part of this, we're moving students where we need to be able, where we have space and where we're constructing space. And we're also trying to move some students in order to create some space to facilitate some programming opportunities. What we wanted to really do as part of this option was to really limit the amount of redistricting. So going back to our meetings in the spring and our discussions that we were having, some of the options, some of the earlier options were rather heavy-handed on the redistricting to balance enrollment, whereas this option is less redistricting and more through choice and magnet programming. So going back, you know, to options 2, 3, 4, we were looking at redistricting 20, 25, 30% of the overall student body. This option itself only moves 2% of the students outside of the Norwalk or outside of the South Norwalk area that I defined. 16% overall, and those are largely the students within that South Norwalk neighborhood that are part of that fragmented zone. So even though we're counting them as being redistricted, it's really, you know, we're redistricting for a positive reason and putting them into that neighborhood and putting them into that neighborhood K-5 school. So what we did was, in order to make up that delta of 170 to 200 students, we had to make some assumptions that are then going to help kind of pave the way for the creation of the, you know, application lottery process that's going to follow this type of work. So what we did is we assumed that there were a number of students that would go from South Norwalk to the Wolf Pit Magnet. We had about 90 there. There's flexibility in that number should the draw not be there. We had kept the historic share of the South Norwalk students that had gone to Silvermine. We've kept that in place. And we've also kept in place where we had students that were in that neighborhood that were going to Columbus, and we kept that pretty conservative at about 90 students there. So what we're doing is we're not only creating a zone, and we're redistricting within that zone to put students into the South Norwalk school itself, which is just this line item on the bottom. And I had a target capacity. This should actually be of 650 rather than 640, but we looked at filling it close to 100%. We also recognize that there'll be a desire to go to that building, but there'll also be a desire to for students to go to some of the other programming. And what this did overall, as part of the sort of the reshaping of the elementary school landscape, it looked at being able to better balance the utilization across the board. So the total complement of schools, and this is looking at the K-5 enrollment, is at 91% overall. When you run typically a neighborhood school where you group and the students group by attendance zone or streets and addresses, in my 20 years, it's typically between 85 and 90%, sometimes a little bit higher. But when you overlay a little bit of a magnet programming on there, you can get into the mid 90s. So this overall utilization is in a good spot. What we did accomplish as part of this is we really shrunk down the range. So prior to this, we had a larger range of utilization with some schools not as well utilized as others. We had some that were on the much higher end and some on the lower end. This really gets all of the elementary schools within that sweet spot, for lack of a better term, where there's no school below 80%. The only schools that are above that 95% threshold are really Cranberry to hit that target for the construction grant. Tracy was moved up to about 95%. CMS operating, as a magnet at Lower Ponus, that's largely an application-based process, and then the South Norwalk school. So we made these assumptions, but overall, when they're put into place, those will change slightly depending on the demographics and depending on the desire of the families and students within that community of what kind of programming they want to opt for. We realize that the school isn't one-to-one, so for the 800 K-5 seats, there's not for the 800 K-5 students, there's not 800 K-5 seats. There's slightly below that, but knowing the direction that the public schools are going in, especially with choice and magnet programming, that'll be used as a good lever to be able to better balance the enrollment overall. And
Mike, I've read that the enrollment is down by 100 to 200 students this year. How does that affect us, if at all?
So what I'm seeing overall, and I'll kind of like take a step back a little bit. All of the urban districts I work in, and I'm working in right now, and I've historically worked in Stanford, Waterbury, Danbury, Hartford, New London. They're seeing a lot less immigration, and it's just the fact of the pandemic. So I think the overall enrollment's really a bit down with the lower grades, especially for 2020, where there was just a hesitancy on sending students. And I think overall, a big enrollment driver historically in Norwalk has been, it's been a landing point for families that are new to Connecticut, new to the United States, and that has really stalled throughout the pandemic. What we're projecting and looking at going forward is that historic immigration into Norwalk, as well as other communities, is going to pick back up at some point in time. We all thought we were kind of out of the woods, and now we're back into this next round. But it's looking at saying that that's going to continue, and the pandemic isn't going to force that historic process from happening.
All right, thanks. Mr. Burnett, your question answered?
Sorry, I got a little long-winded.
I'll say we're getting there. I won't say it's completely answered, but
Okay.
Still not 100% clear on where the excess, it sounds like they'll be going to different schools. So I'm just thinking in my mind how a parent who might have a household across the street from the brand new school is going to react, still putting their child on a bus going across town and not being able to go to the school across the street from where they live.
I think the parents that will choose to apply to other programs, it's going to be a choice process. So they would make the decision because either they believe in a particular philosophical approach, or the child is interested in the arts, or they're interested in other themes across the district, marine science. We also have character education. There's an array of different themes across the district that even currently families make a choice to go to those programs because they want that learning experience. So part of the thinking was that continued interest would be there. And as a result, it didn't make sense to create a school of 800 and something students when in reality we would have, by the choice process, families that would be interested in other programs across the district.
Okay.
Thank
Ms. Young, did I see you have a question? No, if it's- Darlene?
I'm okay, Tom.
Okay.
Thank
thanks.
you.
All right, I'm sorry. Mike, do you want to keep going?
Yeah, so what I laid out here is really just the kind of the framework really to be able to conduct the planning, generate numbers. And I think, as interest is peaked from the various programs that are coming online, getting back to Mr. Burnett's question, you're going to see that natural movement of people looking at it and say, wow, this is great that we have a school here. However, I have a child that's very interested in going down this road, and I want to be able to, further explore that. So I think, what it really does is it provides a huge infusion of seats, 650, K-5 seats, where they weren't before, and, gives a greater consistency for those that are living there and those that are moving in there to understand where their ultimate options lie for elementary school, rather than moving into a 99 area and not knowing where you're going, or not having continuity with, say, the neighbors across the street or anybody else that lives in your neighborhood. So I think it does provide a huge advantage there. One of the other components that we looked at as part of this was the middle school, and with the Columbus Magnet School, CMS moving over to Lower Ponus next year, that does provide an infusion of seats, 134 to be exact, of 6-8 seats. I know it's part of the master plan that was conducted by the architects DLR and Newman over last winter and spring. They identified the middle schools as having a space deficiency there. So in their report, it was at about 99%. I believe this brings that down to 95% utilization overall. And I know there was some items there that they identified in the particular buildings to be able to not only address some physical needs, but also address some space needs that can be moved forward with that. I would have been remiss if I didn't mention the 6-8 component, especially when talking about the program offerings, especially at the elementary, the K-5 and the 6-8 level. So I think overall, it does do a good job of providing seats. It also does a good job of providing opportunities for movement and being able to free up space, say, at Wolf Pit Elementary, for it then to be able to see the vision there for the Arts Magnet program there to be able to come to fruition, to be able to have a movement of students, whether they're from the south of Norwalk neighborhood or throughout Norwalk into that. So I do know it's tricky sometimes with, when you're looking at a redistricting and you're moving lines around over what was historically done. But what really, and I'll just pan back to it, what really jumped out to me as part of this was just how reliant some of the other schools were on, especially say Cranberry, where you have a large number of students that come from this neighborhood and then populate that school. It was necessary to be able to create a construct to be able to keep the enrollment at a sustainable level at the other buildings while still being able to meet all the objectives, providing choice and providing parents the opportunity to be able to attend other children, attend other areas of interest. And that really kind of wraps up.
Mike, excuse me a second. We have first Ms. Young and then Mr. Huberman. I have questions. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Zuba, if you could go back to the slide with the numbers on it. I think you were answering my question as I was thinking about it right here. So,
Okay.
and this is just for you and then Dr. Estrella or anybody. So when I look at the scenario enrollments, so what's the number of enrollment, the least amount, because that we can have before we talk about there being enrollment issues with the numbers. So if you look at 315 and 316, that's the target capacity.
Yeah.
So is that what you were speaking to, that there would be open seats potentially for those magnet programs?
Exactly. So under this, I was able to free up seats as part of the magnet programs. And where I'm saying the target capacity is 315, that's not the maximum capacity. When we plan, we always provide some headway there. So this has some buffering built into it. If you were to look at a maximum capacity, you would assume that you fill every classroom space to the maximum that the teacher contract allows. That's not what we did here. So what I'm aiming for when I went through this work was 100% is good. It's okay to hit 100% because that's sort of the target that we have. It's not the maximum capacity. It also provides a little bit of wiggle room to go over that. So for Wolf Pit, where we're looking at and giving it a target of 315, we're saying under the work that I've done, the enrollment is about 270. That 270 also includes 90 students coming out of the South Norwalk neighborhood. So should that number be something less than 90, then there's more available seats for students that are in a different school that want to opt into that. So it'll be interesting to see how the interest is anytime you start up some new offerings and run choice and magnet programs. But there is, right from the jump, there's flexibility there to be able to have, a fairly robust choice offering in application process.
The 272. So what's the number that becomes an issue for enrollment purposes?
Yeah, there's about 5 to 10% headroom in here. So, if this number, and I don't have it in front of me, but if this number were to climb, any of these numbers were to be 10% higher. So if the 640 were to be 700, then that would be a little bit, that would be tight, because now you don't have any available extra seats. You're basically, every instructional classroom would be taught at the maximum of the teacher contract. That's not what we're like master planning around. But what it shows is that there's sufficient space should demographics shift slightly, should more students move into a neighborhood because of the housing sales, should there be a greater interest for students in some of these programs to opt in through magnet and choice, that number is a little bit flexible. It's not a hard and this target capacity is not hard and fast. It's not set in stone. There's some flexibility on the higher end to accommodate additional students there.
Thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Huberman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a couple quick questions to clear something up for me. Is CMS
Sure.
at Lower Ponus, is that K through 8 or K through 5?
K to 8.
It's K to 8. Okay. And then
And that really, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I said that really also helped us because we were really tight at the middle school. So it opened up seats to help alleviate the overcrowding that we currently have at the middle school level.
And
as
that
well.
leads into my next question, which is this new South Norwalk school, which middle school is it going to flow into naturally?
So you want to go?
Yeah. Oh, do you want me to take that one, Dr. Estrella?
Yeah, you could go into the chart.
Yep. Look, I'm just going to do it from from the map view here.
Mhm.
So historically, coming out of this area, the students would kind of follow several pathways. I think that's the beauty of looking at a magnet and choice program. What ultimately we made as part of a recommendation back in, I believe it was summer or early fall, was that the middle schools would then have a more choice component. So children not only in South Norwalk would be able to opt into any of the other middle schools, but that's something that could be piloted through here that could then be brought forth for the entire district. And so so to answer your question simply, we didn't create a cemented middle school boundary saying you're going to go here. It's being viewed as an opportunity for them to be able to follow a choice pathway into whatever middle school they choose.
And
Is
one of the
that-
things that
Go ahead.
we're looking at district-wide is looking at middle and high school choice to allow students to apply to different program pathways across the district. So right now at the high school level, we have the IB program, we have the marine science, we have the health careers, the digital media, and a number of different pathways that we are also building and developing at the middle and in the elementary school grades. So one of the things that we are looking to do is ensure that students can continue on a track of interest across the district, regardless of where they live. And in order to do that, one of the things that we are currently studying is the possibility of creating middle school choice and high school choice. At the high school level, we pretty much have high school choice at some level, and we want to just offer that at an expanded rate to all students, so that if they start a particular track, particularly in middle school, and they want to continue their studies in that area, students will have the option to do that, rather than making a decision in ninth grade without having any background experience on the subject matter or field. And that will give them an opportunity to further expand their thinking. For one of the things, for instance, that we're doing, we've been in conversation with many of our school leaders around the International Baccalaureate program for the early years in elementary and also in middle school. So Nathan Hale, for instance, is a school that's interested in this particular pathway, and we are building that program to ensure that students have access to that learning style and experience before they start high school, so that they have some understanding and knowledge of what it is to be in that track, and also just to continuously build capacity around a subject matter of interest.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Stray, are you going to keep going, or is that the presentation?
So this is the unless you have any additional questions, hopefully this gives you a perspective of the thinking behind why the South Norwalk School is essential as we continue to plan forward as a district, and how important this is for the South Norwalk community. I know that there's been ongoing conversations for a number of years now to make this a possibility for the community. And I think that we are very close to potentially making this happen. So I hope that this information was helpful to the Common Council as they continue to move forward in making decisions that will potentially lead to our children having a school in their community.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee or the council? Ms.
Yeah,
Young.
Chairman Livingston, I've raised this before. You know, I'm excited that there's this opportunity for a school in South Norwalk. It's long overdue. We all know that. But we also know that schools traditionally in low-income communities don't do well by their children as far as education is concerned. And so I think the building is great, but what's inside the building is what's more important. And so the educational models, which I know down the line we will be having those conversations, but is critical to the well-being of children in South Norwalk. So the concept and the idea is wonderful, but how our children are taught is what's going to be key moving forward.
I can agree more with you, Ms. Young.
And I also think that it almost sounds like too, I mean, we are eliminating the concept and the idea of having to bus children. And I know we're limited in space, but the reality is there's still going to be young people who are bused that live in South Norwalk, but it would hopefully be by choice. And the middle school young people will be doing the same thing, but I hope we get to that place with the system where it's a more equitable system of choice for South Norwalk children.
And I think the difference in this process is that in the past, they were the ones that were constantly being bused. In this process, other communities will also be engaging in the choice process and will be involved in the same experience. So when you talk about equity, this will allow us to be a step closer to doing that so that everyone has the same options to the different magnet programs, but also have the choice to stay in the community.
Mr. Lowe?
I just want to add a couple of points in terms of process-wise. I think this is one of the first meeting the council is seeing again together on regarding the South Norwalk School projects. There's many steps that's required, and one of them is actually the financial side, the appropriation of money for this project. Recently, as of Monday, the Board of Education submitted a special capital budget request to the finance department and the mayor. And on Monday, the board estimated received a presentation similar to tonight's presentation and voted to support a special appropriation to use the funding that's currently available and the Columbus School at Ely project and the renovation of the old Columbus School for a global academy. I forgot what the name was. To combine those two old accounts and fund this new school at $72 million. That was being forwarded to a special appropriation process. It's scheduled to go to the planning/zoning commission by I think it's January 19th. And I also requested through Councilman Burnett a special meeting of the Finance Committee to review the special appropriation on January 20th. And thereafter, we intend to bring that to, assuming the Finance Committee approved the recommendation, we'll go to full Common Council January, I believe it's 25th. So there's a number of steps that we are going through concurrently, but we want to take this opportunity to provide the Land Use and Building Management Committee, as well as the other member of Common Council who attend the meeting tonight, a complete presentation, because there's so many meetings that we are hitting that I don't know how detailed we can provide the information to the members of council each time. So if there's any question from a member of the committee, you're welcome to contact me or Dr. Strayer directly or her office so that we can continue to provide information to the council. So as we go with special appropriation, those type of very specific to the allocation of funds. So I think there may be less discussion about, enrollment numbers and stuff like that. At the same time, I just want everybody to be aware that the process is starting from this committee, and then we will go on, and concurrently there's different things happening. So you will see other things to go in the news media and all about different things happening. So it's a very comprehensive process to get to the Common Council to have a full presentation. Actions that are going to be taken by the council by January 25th.
Right, Alan, just to point out that the goal, of course, is to get this up to the state by June 30th, correct?
Yeah,
there's a lot of hoops to jump through, but that's the goal.
There is a lot of hoops to come through, and also at the staff level, there's a lot of complex things that we have to take care of. So it's a lengthy process. Again, my office, me and my office is always available. Anybody has any questions, so we can provide information directly or with the assistance of the Board of Education.
Okay, Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Going back to the presentation, the one item that wasn't touched on, and maybe it will be, is by nature of the historical location within South Norwalk. We know that there are areas that are by zone considered industrial areas where you might have contractor yards, et cetera, of that nature. And by placing the school in that area, what sensitivities, if any, are we taking into account for building a school in that zone?
Mr. Lowe, are you frozen, Alan?
Oh,
I think
I
that's
wasn't sure.
directed to you.
Yeah, I
I
don't know
wasn't
if
sure
it was,
I was
I don't
supposed
know
to
if it's for
answer.
Alan or the superintendent or
Yeah,
Mr. Zumba.
I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer this question, but I'm gonna take a shot at it. I see Mike Zumba is laughing at me. It's quite all right. I think historically, South Norwalk is a mixed zone in terms of urban planning wise. It's an old community with in the center of town with multi zone uses, including residential, commercial, light industrial, neighborhood businesses, multifamily homes and stuff. This is nature of the community, and it's a long process to change, and it's really an evolution of time and growth of a community. There's certain things a community always need: industrial areas, center commercial area, ethnic neighborhoods, minority neighborhoods, and everything else in between kind of thing. They always center in the urban part of the city. So it's not unusual that all these mixed use are all kind of intertwined within a small area. And that's why you're South Norwalk. I mean, if the goal is to provide a neighbor's school in South Norwalk, it's very hard to avoid that. I mean, it is the nature of the mix of historic zone relationships within the community. I know that the zoning commission and the zoning department is continue to look at how we can balance the residential zone adjacent to the industrial zone. It is going to be a long process, the city to go through. In terms of environmental issues, our responsibility look at any property that we acquire for the school. We will make sure that the environment, we will satisfy all the environmental requirements, any existing or potential possible of any kind of contaminant is addressed. We can't control what's in the other places within South Norwalk where they are kind of like a better word, dirty industry kind of thing. But I mean, I don't mean dirty, but I mean it's just kind of, it's not a very it's not like a warehouse where there's no manufacturing or junkyard kind of thing. But at the same time is that it is a long process for a community to start gradually address this multi-use community. So I don't know what else to say, but if Dr. Australia or Mike may have some comments on this.
So I'd like to comment before either one of you do. So I thank you, Greg, for raising the issue. And I think what's going to be very important, and us as council people have to be just as vigilant and determined as we are about other issues in the city about where this school is being built and getting some sort of change enacted as far as this zoning is concerned in the area. To say that, this is the area and it is what it is, in my opinion, is a disservice. We are passionate about a lot of things, and we've got to be passionate about this as well. And so with this industrial study, I think it's going to take all of us to lend our voice to this industrial study that is currently going on and moving some sort of ordinance or zone change forward to minimize the impact on these young children. And I understand Alan's, Mr. Lowe's perspective and point too. I mean, we're very limited in space in South Norwalk. And so we have to, utilize the space that we have, but we need to really be forceful and use our voice to this concern as well.
Yeah, and if I may, Alan, I'll just add to that. I think you hit the nail on the head, and Darlene as well. I think when you look at it and you peel things back, and you have children under, not high school, but elementary, middle school children, you have 1,000 of them living in that neighborhood, in that area, that live there every day. I wouldn't use, the prior uses or the direction zoning's going as a reason to not put a school in there. I think everything's a balance, and it's a communicative process, and you're going through the zoning study. It's understanding, everybody's viewpoint on what you're trying to accomplish within this area. And there's an importance of growing the tax base. There's importance of, putting, viable uses to land, but there's also a greater importance to be able to kind of provide that opportunity there for students that historically haven't, and do it in a way that adds to the community, do it in a way that it doesn't create a conflict. So I think it's just communication and a balancing act between all the different entities within the city of Norwalk to be able to, achieve everybody's objectives for, an area like this.
And I have to say, to that, we talk about walkability, and we're looking for young people and their families to walk to school. Well, we want safe pathways, trails to school. And so we have to look at all of those things. And so, again, it's a balancing act, but we talk about those things in other communities, and that has to be as important for our families in South Norwalk as well. Regardless of the tax base and the business and all those other things, safety for our children should come first.
Darlene, you're absolutely right. And I think that does have to be a priority for this committee and the council. I mean, to make sure that we address these issues up front. Ms. Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. I think I just want to make a comment. It's probably not particular to where we are. I do understand, regardless of what we decide before the Board of Ed and the Norwalk Public School can move forward, we have to pick a location. But I really want to just take an opportunity to talk about what the physical building is going to be. If we're saying 666 children, including staff, and we want to make sure that this building is one that includes all of our great technology. And as a parent, I would like it to be a building that almost invites the outside in, but I also want it to be constructed in a way that is futuristic and sustainable as far as green development. And I know we're probably not at that stage yet, because you can't kind of do all of those things until you really know where you're going to be. But I don't think it's too early to bring that into the conversation, because it speaks to some things that other people have said about having a walkable school, a school that the neighborhood could tie into. And I think because we already know that South Norwalk has this mixed use zoning, the collaboration of the council as well as Norwalk Public School, we're really going to have to collaborate at a level to make sure, that's why I said a futuristic type of development, that it's answering multiple needs and covering up things that may not profit that community. And so I just wanted to bring that to the conversation.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the South Norwalk School is so very, very, very long overdue. This has been some very compelling data tonight. And, I do just want to say that I have had some concerns about the Columbus School moving into the Ponus School, some concerns about the Ponus community, and the fact that, so much effort, money, professional development has gone into, this K-8 STEAM academy, and and that's just such a big change for the community. So I do hope that there are going to be ongoing conversations, a lot of collaboration between Columbus and Ponus, and that that's going to move forward in a positive way. But again, this is really compelling data. We've got to get this school built. It is so long overdue. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. All right. Unless there are any further questions.
Tom, I'm sorry, Mr. Livingston. I think Henry has his hand up.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, no, he does. Oh, no, he doesn't. I'm sorry. It's my
He's just in a fog, it looks like.
Sorry, my fault. My
All right.
bad.
Okay, no further questions. Dr. Estrella, thank you so much for coming. Thank you and your team. Mike, Dinah, thank you guys for coming out. Really do appreciate it and look forward to working on this.
Thank you for having us. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right, good night. All right, so I'll call for a vote on the item which has been moved. Unless there's any reason for any further discussion, I'll just call for the vote. All in favor? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any opposed? Abstentions? No. Passes unanimously. Thank you. So Alan, I see the next item is Cranberry, then Jefferson, and then we get the executive session about the land acquisition. Do you want to keep, I mean, is there any reason to move that up, or I see we have people from outside. Well, I guess unless there's any, okay, I was just thinking if we had people, other council members who want to
Yeah,
participate.
I mean, my suggestion may move the executive session to the end so that we don't hold other people up. I think there's somebody from Y is here, and also somebody's from the senior center is here. So
All right.
we'll go for the agenda, so we won't go for the executive session at the end.
I think that the council members who
there's
have,
council members, that's
the
right.
council members who are not on the committee that have joined us, I think would like to be in this executive session. And I don't believe they have invites.
No. So I see Lisa, Nora, Darlene, and Dominique. Did you guys want to be part of that executive session? Okay, Dominique.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Lisa, yes.
I know Darlene does because I
Yeah.
got a text from her, so.
All right, well, why don't, here's what we'll do. Let's put that at the end. We're going to send you guys somehow figure out how to get you the invites, but we're going to move on with the meeting and bring that up at the end. We'll send you the invites. You can join back in then. If that works. for you.
Tom, you have I'm at home, so I don't have the access to the city email address, so you have it. If you
I
can
do.
send the invite to them. Maybe that's
Yeah.
the one way to do that.
Tom, who needs the invite? It's Darren.
Darlene, Dominique, Lisa, and Nora.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you. So you guys want us to just text you when we're going to go in executive session? Does that work? I'll take that as a yes. Just because we have other people who are outside or we're waiting. Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Let's move on to Cranberry School. Item B1, review and approve final drawings, specifications, and cost estimates for the proposed new Cranberry School construction project. Council action is not required. The item is authorize the chairman of the Land Use and Building Management Committee acting in his capacity as the City of Norwalk's designated school building committee to certify the Land Use and Building Management Committee's approval of the final plan, specification, and cost estimate for the new Cranberry Elementary School project, state project number 103-0252N. Have a motion? Anyone? Mr. Keegan, thank you. All right.
Let me just start real quickly. This is one of the few items that the Committee of Common Council has the authority to approve. The way this is set up by Common Council, by city ordinance, the Land Use and Building Management Committee is the designated school building committee for the city. Therefore, it has certain responsibility to the state in terms of approving things. So again, typically the Common Council committee does not have any authority to approve anything except this instance, whereby the committee is acting on behalf of the city. So therefore, this does not need to go to Common Council because the committee is recognized by the state to take the following action. So with that, Jim is going to present the item together with Lisa Yates from the architecture's firm.
Thanks, Alan. As many of you know, we've been in design for the new Cranberry Elementary School for the past year. We are finishing that design, and as part of the process, that the state requires. The state has to review the final drawings, specifications, and cost estimate and approve it for us to go out to bid. Before that happens, we need the approval of the building committee or the land use and building management committee of the Common Council to approve us to move forward for the state's review. With us, we don't have Lisa, we have Mike Lasasso.
Lisa.
No Lisa today, we got Mike Lasasso.
No, I'm here.
You have
Oh,
Lisa.
there's Lisa, I'm sorry.
You're gonna give Mike a heart attack.
Sorry, Lisa. So Lisa, if you'd like to take it over from here.
Sure.
Just, do your.
Yeah, let me just say, let's do this. Let's see if we can do this in about 5 minutes, if you could. Sorry about that.
No, I'd be happy to. And I understand that most of you are pretty familiar with this project already, and I totally understand this is a full agenda that you have this evening. So then the drawings and the specifications, the estimate, they're all voluminous documents. So we've sort of distilled it into a few slides that will hopefully tell the story. So this is our site. The orange mass is our 2-story building, just over 62,000 square feet. You can see the ghost of the existing Cranberry School underneath. The idea is the existing school remains occupied while we build the new building. And then once that is complete, the kids and the teachers move over, and then we're able to remove the existing school. And we get to build this very nice long parent drop-off loop, which serves the front of the school and some parking, athletic fields, tennis court inside the loop. The bus loop.
Excuse me, Lisa, does this reflect the agreement with the neighbors, proposed agreement with the neighbors?
Yes, yes. So this, and I could go through that in one by one, but yes.
Okay,
So our
thank you.
drawings have all been updated based on where we ended up with the ZBA. So this includes, our earlier designs had shown a tennis court over in this area to the west, closer to the neighbors. And so the tennis court and the basketball hoops have been moved to the east side. The building has been moved 10 feet to the north. We discussed moving it in various ways, but we're actually quite constrained on the site, and that's what we were able to do. We're placing the dumpster area close to the school as opposed to farther away, closer to the neighbors, which works fine for the school. It's right next to the service and delivery area. And then you can see highlighted here, these trees that are shown shaded were all added as part of our work with the neighbors. We have a generator here with more additional tree screening around it. And so that's all reflected in the drawings going forward, the set that's dated 11/18, which you will be signing off on, and was presented to the ZBA the second time that we went to present to them. And also part of the ZBA, we are committed to continue to work with the neighbors. So that is, now I'll get back into how great it is that we have separation between the bus loop here and the parent drop-off loop, which is something that the school does not have now. And then this driveway back here is required by the fire marshal. So we have access to 3 sides of the building for fire. This will be locked off during normal time, and there will be an outdoor covered classroom and some gardens back here. And the play areas are on either side of the north end of the building. So moving inside quickly, I think I have 4 minutes left. The first floor is, so just to reorient you, on the last slide, north was up. Now north is to the right. So on the first floor, the entry sequence and security are intrinsically related here. We have our separate entrance and exit. You have to get buzzed into the entrance unless it's the beginning of the day when students come in, and then you have to go through the office, and then you finally get into the main lobby all while being buzzed. We have a window here for the Raptor system. This main entrance is hardened, so it's ballistic glass. All of the glazing on the first floor is entry resistant, which is a few steps below ballistic, but you can't open a large hole in the glass. The admin wing is, the administrative office is right off of the entrance. Cafeteria is also right off the entrance in the lobby. Our south end delivery area is over here. Our gym, and it's called a performance platform per the state, our mini stage for kids, is also here. So this area is all fronting a nice sized lobby, and it can be easily locked off from the rest of the school, which will be nice for weekend events. Pancake breakfasts, I understand. So moving into the rest of the building, the library, the Learning Commons here, the heart of the school, is at the center. Our younger children are on this side. On the north side, we have pre-K, new to the school, over here. And then we have 4 kindergarten classrooms. And then as you get into looking at the rest of the classrooms, we get very modular and flexible. So we have first grade here, second grade here. This is a music room, which could be swing for second grade if needed. Art classroom is here, music is there. But the idea here is, we understand the way the demographics change in the community. It will be useful to have all of these similarly sized classrooms that you can sort of do, adjust them to suit your needs as time goes by. So as we go upstairs, we have the upper grades upstairs. We have third grade, fourth to the south, fourth grade in the middle, fifth grade on the right here. We have a science classroom, which again could easily switch out to be a swing classroom, and a resource classroom for the same reason. Now this narrower spine, we have some toilet rooms here, but we also have our special ed, our gifted classrooms, and our English language learning. And these are long unseparated classrooms on purpose in case you need to use them as a larger classroom, but in the way we're approaching the furniture, we'll give them a soft acoustical divider in the middle, give them 2 smart boards so that 2 teachers can be in there. So again, there's a lot of flexibility. And I'll take you to a view of the outside. I don't have a lot of interior shots for you tonight, but I heard the comment bringing the outside in for the proposed South Norwalk Elementary School, and that's something that's been very important to us here, because we're on such a nice park-like site where we're bringing wood inside, and so we have some stone here on the outside as accent stone, which goes inside and outside. So this is a view of the southeast side of the building. This is the cafeteria. Our main entrance is here, and then the front of the building extends up. And this tree is a large existing, I believe it's an oak tree that's currently in your bus loop turnaround, which will be able to preserve right at the front of the building. And this view sort of takes you around the corner. Oh, wait, I wanted to point out, Heidi Alterman, this little plinth here is actually a planter. That's something I know we talked about. It didn't make it into the rendering.
Yes,
but
no, thank you. I love it.
It's there. So as we're moving up, this is a more head-on view of the split entrance. And then you can see the library further on. It's sort of designed like if the cafeteria is a major version, the library is a minor version with the glass and the stone. And then looking at it sort of more from the north, the cafeteria here is on the left. This is the admin wing and the library. And that's about 5 minutes. So I'm happy to try to help with any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Well,
I have one. I
oh,
have
go
my
ahead.
hand up.
Sorry.
I just had a quick question. I know in some of our meetings, we've talked about solar panels, and especially like in all schools going forward in Norwalk. I know that the building doesn't have like ideal placement, but I just was wondering if that's going to be worked into any of the models.
Yes, so solar's planned for this building after the project as part of a power purchasing agreement with the city. And we're actually doing sort of a mini design of the system to make sure that we don't have to make any changes when the solar people come in.
Okay.
Just a technical correction. Actually, the power purchase agreement is a Board of Education. It's not with the city.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Burnett?
Oh, yes, thank you, Chairman. I guess that my question is, what do the budgetary numbers look like? Are we coming in under budget, or what do those numbers look like? Based on this design?
We're on budget. Considering the fact that, we're have inflation the way it is, we are on budget. So we're happy about that.
But you haven't gone out for bid, of course.
No, no. We can't go out to bid until we get this approved by you and by the state of Connecticut.
Right.
So I'm sorry, when you said on budget, is that what we're looking at right now?
Yes.
So can you just explain this? So what is this saying? That what do we allocate? And when we say, are we assuming we're going to use every dollar of it, or are we going to come in under?
Right now, it's assuming we're using every dollar of it, but that is typically the case at this point, Greg, because we adjust the owner's contingency to get to the overall project budget. So the owner's contingency usually runs about 5%. I think that's where we are right now. So we are on budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Okay, did I see one? Mr. Hooverman.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Livingston. This is a question, it's not specific to Cranberry, but it got me thinking. So maybe a question more for Alan and Jim. Are we looking long-term at the man-trap entrances at other schools, some of the older schools that don't have them right now? I know in the new construction, we're putting all of that in, and the renovations, we're putting it in, but we have a number of schools that don't have entryways like this. Are we looking at that down the road?
I don't know how to answer that question because I only deal with these projects, these schools when it come to my attention. So that's really a planning process for the Board of Education.
Okay.
It is part of every time, like you said, every time we renovate a building, every time, like even we did the window project at West Rock, we put in I hate the word man trap, it sounds a little sexist, but people trap.
I've heard Sally Port.
Sally Port. That's just as bad. But in any event, yes. I mean, every opportunity we have when we do a somewhat a co-upgrade or anything to do with arranging substantial enough that we will address it. But it's really come from Board of Ed to start initiate that needs. We are fully aware that we want to do this. We need to do this. They need to include as part of the capital budget request so that we can implement it.
Okay, thanks. Sorry,
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. A number of years.
Oh, hey, Bill.
Hi, I'm
Go
sorry.
on, Bill. Go on.
A number of years ago, all entrances and all glass from 6 feet below were outfitted with a ballistic rated film. So while we don't have the outlay that we had talked about here in the new Cranberry, we do have a security film on the windows at all schools as a stopgap measure.
Okay, thanks. I know it's just, it's becoming more and more a concern that I hear parents talk about and people in the community talk about, and I was wondering where we were at. Thank you.
Any further comments, discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? No, passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, Jefferson School. C1, review proposed installation of photovoltaic panels on Jefferson School roof by the Board of Education. Refer the following to the Common Council. Approve the installation of photovoltaic panels on the Jefferson School roof by Board of Education through a 20-year power purchase agreement. Do you have a motion? Mr. Burnett, thank you. who's going to talk about this? Alan?
I can start. As part of the city's strategy to provide us install photovoltaic panels in school buildings, we are designing every building. Ponus is Jefferson, Cranberry, and so on. And when we look at Norwalk High School in the future, and Cranberry School and South Norwalk School, so for all the project, we are going to look at it seriously, and also other energy features that we can include in each one of these projects. Meanwhile, the Board of Ed is about to. We are renovating, as you know, we're renovating Jefferson School now. It's on schedule to finish by end of May, beginning of June of 2020, this year. The furniture is scheduled to deliver by the summer, and then the Jefferson student can come back to Jefferson in the fall semester. Concurrently, the building design with the capacity, capability for a solar system. Therefore, the Board of Ed is in the process of executing agreement with the designated solar company, which is Green Skies, to install the panels. So as part of that approval, we thought that it's a good idea to bring it to the Common Council, as this is a city facility, for the council to be aware that this is happening, and then support this request so that the Board of Ed will proceed with execute a long-term lease agreement with it, which is 20 years. So it's not like a short-term kind of purchasing agreement. It's a short-term, long-term lease arrangement with payments to be made every year from their utility account. In any event, so it's pretty straightforward in that sense that Board of Ed is going to enter into this agreement. We want to show that we are supportive of their efforts. That's it. Bill and Darren's here tonight too.
Yeah, Councilman Livingston and the rest of the council on the call. I just wanted to add quickly that the contract for this school is fully negotiated. It'll be consistent with the prior contract for Ponus. And I had asked that this be put on the land use committee agenda because while it is a school building, it's not only just a school building, it's a city building as well. And so, this really should be something that is approved both by the Board of Education and the city, because it's a substantial, essentially improvement on a city building.
Yeah, I just want to add for the committee that Mr. Callahan has spent a lot of time negotiating that power purchase agreement. It wasn't easy. So thank you for that. Any questions?
I'm sorry, I'd just like to add one thing, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
The 20-year agreement with Green Skies would, over 20 years, it would be a $2,044, $675,000 estimated savings. So there's a big incentive to do this.
Thank you for that. That's good information. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, passes unanimously. All right, so we're going to defer the executive session, go through to next item is the Y. E1, review request to extend the interim license agreement with the YMCA for additional 3 months in order to finalize the details of the long-term lease development agreement. Refer the following to the Common Council for action. Authorized Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute an amendment to the interim license agreement with the Riverbrook Regional Young Men's Christian Association for the occupancy of portion of 98 South Main Street building to provide community service programs by extending the agreement period from January 1, 2022 to March 31, 2022. All remaining terms of the agreement to remain unchanged. Have a motion, please? Anyone? Mr. Hooverman, thank you. Alan, Darren, who's going to do this? Bob's here too. We have with us Bob McDowell, who is from the Y.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, I think for those new council members, the city had this building probably for about 5 years now. It used to be the South Norwalk Community Center. For a number of years, the city got this building back from the old Neon group after they dissolved, And we'd be managing it with minimum use. I mean, minimum in terms of just, I think it's what you call it, it's only one organization in there right now, one or two, I think the most. Anyway, so we really don't use that building at this point because the future of it was unknown for a number of years. And about 2 years ago, the city issued RFP for community programming use and social program uses. And we issued an RFP, and the YMCA submitted a proposal to the city. And through that found the submission, we went. The Common Council approved the proposal, and we've been working on a long-term lease/development agreement for about 4 months at a time, and then COVID hit us. We were supposed to turn over the building to them on April or so of 2020. But because of COVID and the community, the whole country is going up different type of uses. I mean, how people kind of participate in all different program changes and stuff, and the needs of why it changes a little bit. So about a year ago, the Y came to the city and said, you know what, we are in a position to try to start some programming to start getting some momentum going in the building. So we executed a 6-month license agreement for the temporary use. And in the summer of this year, we extended to December 31st of 2021 in anticipation that they will start taking over the building as of January 1st of this year. We've been working on this, and in mid-December, we realized that, you know what, there's still some stuff that on the legal and technical side, we need to take care of some more stuff. And we need the Y requested a little extension of time to March 31st of this year, so that we can finalize all the miscellaneous detail that we need to go through. And Darren has been working on the lease agreement, and in fact, I mean, December, there was a kind of tough time to get everything done, but he got the revised draft to the YMCA, and YMCA looking at it right now too, and then they need to go through their board. So we just wanted a few more months just to kind of resolve the miscellaneous issue that we need to address. So therefore, we are here to request extension of the license agreement for 3 more months, with full anticipation that we'll be in the position to sign the long-term lease development agreement. As part of this, the city has contributed, I believe, $1.2 million to the process. And Bob, if you don't mind, you can talk about a little financing where you are and the step you're taking already before you even have a permanent lease agreement in place. You muted.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you, committee members and Chairman Livingston. Great work that you all are doing. It's been an education sitting in here tonight and listening to all the fantastic stuff that's going on in the city of Norwalk. But I will bring up the date, Alan, to, asked about the financing. Right now, we've also been awarded a bond from the state of
we lost you.
To be designated toward this project. So that is going to be happening, which is awesome.
Sorry, Bob, we lost you a little bit. You were talking about the state, you guys state grant. I think it's $1.2 million. Is that what it is?
Correct. $1.2 million of state grant. So we, have our own financing in place right now. So we will reach all of those milestones as it's going to be laid out in the lease. Right now, we've currently put in about almost $200,000 of either into the building, which are outlined in the attachment 5E1, which is a letter to Mr. Livingston. And you'll be able to see where we've spent some dollars already and where we've contracted with consultants. Turner Construction will be our construction management firm, and Antonazzi, we've committed to them to be our architect. So we are in having multiple conversations with them right now in our planning session. So we're in good shape. We also have a commitment from a UBS to help with some financing for us, interim financing, as we go and raise money.
So Bob, if I could, and I appreciate all the work you guys have put into this, but I ask you this question every time we've had this discussion. I believe you're committed, but of course, every time you come to us, we have to ask the question. And I asked this, ask this partly by asking, in terms of the issues in the license agreement, is there anything, or the lease, anything there that you see as problematic that would stop this from moving forward from your end?
Yeah, Tom, I didn't really hear the question. I was breaking up on my end, I think.
Well, I
Might be my
understand.
connection.
I understand we're given the time to finish up the license or lease agreement. And I guess I'm asking
Yep.
you,
Mhm.
is there anything you see on the open issues that you see as problematic that would stop you from moving forward with this?
Not at all, or else we would not have moved forward at this point. Part of it is on our side with our attorney who's pro bono right now, and some of it was a slowdown. So Darren, I know, had been working hard, as has Mario, and I'd been in conversation. So we fully expected to have some of this done already, but when it hit December 1 and that some of the work on our end was not done, that created this need for an extension.
Right. Okay, thank you. Other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Ms. Ayers, sorry. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Just want to make sure that I'm understanding. I know that what you're coming before us is for an extension, and then the lease, you would come back for the lease sign to be assigned on March or in 3 months. But the money that you have already gotten, the grants that you have already gotten, is to do structural work on that building, or is programmatic grants?
It's a great question. Thank you for the question. It will be all renovation work that will be done on that building.
That's a good, Ms. Ayers, yeah, you don't have the benefit of seeing, the proposal they had. Do we have anybody, does anybody have that we can show? Maybe Alan, we could send out.
Yeah, I'll do a follow-up, email everybody some of the information, some of the historic information. I think that right now we're looking at a construction budget of, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, about $6 million to completely renovate the building. So Bob, the Y has hired an architect and also hired a construction manager. And at the same time, it's we're going to look at the bidding process, because they're required to bid things out as part of the construction bids and stuff like that. Because the city money we are putting in, there's no money transfer, whatever. There's no money exchange yet. All the money is still within the city account. But at the same time, they have received a state grant, also at $1.2 million. So all of this comes with some requirement in terms of public bidding and state wages and everything else like that. So I'm scheduled to have a conversation with Bob's team soon in the near future. At the same time, it's not we haven't given any money to them. It's but they have expended money in terms of getting the project lined up, get ready to get started. We will not the long-term lease/development agreement has been fully approved by the Common Council. So what we're coming back to the committee is just the interim agreement for them to continue to be in the building, to operate some program they're operating now. We do not need to come back to the council again. So I just wanted to make that clarification. So you will not see the approval of the long-term lease development agreement again, because that has been approved. It's just a matter of we're getting all the detail of the legal language, meeting both sides' requirements, legal requirements. So the Y is prepared to execute the agreement as soon as both attorney has final agreement on the detailed terms, and will be executed.
And thank you, Alan, for that. And Mr. McDonald, I'm sorry that I'm playing catch up, but I am new to this committee. So my understanding is that you're going to just be the only occupant in that building, or it's going to be, I'm sorry, somebody can email me and tell me what I
That's a fair question.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Great question. And we will be in there with AmeriCares, who's currently been in there for 25 years right now. So they will be expanding their space from 1,000 square feet to 2,500 square feet. Actually, 2,636 is what it's come to right now. The Norwalk Housing Authority will also have 3 classrooms that are in there. It's not your typical YMCA. It's not a gym and swim. It's a community center. So we will have a community kitchen, an audio-visual space for children, a STEM lab for children, teen center. So all of that will be in the South Norwalk Community Center as a YMCA. So UCAN will also have space in there. They were the former South Norwalk Community Center. They will have 770 square feet. The Housing Authority will have about close to 4,000 square feet. So we're in that schematic development right now. We've been meeting with each of those agencies over the past 45 days. And so we're getting close to that point. Turner is now doing some cost estimates, thus the meeting with Alan to clarify some final things about the infrastructure.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to answer the question in a little more detail, is that the YMCA is going to be run all the programs with their own funding, where they may apply for state funding, whatever, but it's not a city funded operation anymore. After they get they have to raise their own funding, run their own program, and then and I think that's it. Okay.
Mr. Burnett?
Thank you. Just curious that, with the assumption that we'll move forward with the lease in March, and what is the projected timeline when we envision, the Y being the Y at 98 South Main, to the renovation, construction, et cetera? What is the anticipated timeline that we're going to see full operation, programming, construction ending? Just ballpark, what are we looking at?
Yeah, thank you, Greg, for that question. We are looking at, if all goes well, through having construction documents out for bid in early June, potentially starting construction this fall, and with a construction timeline of 6 to 7 months after that. Again, you're looking at summer of 2023, probably, by the time we have that ribbon cutting and we have full occupancy with all of our agencies in place. That will be in there, plus the YMCA. So the YMCA will occupy about 70% of that space on those numbers, which is, including some common areas.
I should have you work on my school projects.
All right, if there are no further questions, I'll just call for a vote. All in favor?
Sorry, yeah, I just have one question. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Barbara.
Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Good to see you. Happy New Year.
I'm curious about the additional 1.2 million that you just received from the state. Is that going to enable you to, do additional work that you hadn't anticipated, or is that making up for maybe some fundraising that didn't happen during COVID? I'm just curious about that.
I think it'll help. I've been in conversations with Senator Duff for about 2 years, maybe 3 years, and as soon as the city put out that RFP for a $1.2 million match, and we were awarded this opportunity, he was starting to talk to Governor Lamont about $1.2 million because and so this is kind of built into this, and it's very timely for us during the fundraising process, because as we talk with our donors right now, we have a level of funding that people are becoming more and more confident in. So that's a great question. It was kind of baked into the $6 million, and talking with construction management firms, everything's escalating. We all know that inflationary cost. This also puts into play all of the bidding, for all of the wages and the appropriate bidding process. So there's some escalation in there. So this is really good timing.
Thanks.
All right, if no further questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Abstentions? No. Passed unanimously. Thanks a lot, Bob. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chairman. Good night.
All right, so let's see if we can get through these next items pretty quickly. Item 2 is discuss the future use of 10 Tito Court property and possible sale of the property. And if we decide to consider the sale of property, the next step would be to schedule a public hearing. Alan, do you want to give us a quick rundown on that?
Yeah, as part of the original project to build a new Columbus school at the Ely site, we were told by the state that we need to acquire the property first before they can approve anything, but it turned out that's not true. But in any event, the project turned out to be extremely difficult and anyway, it wasn't the project to build a school at parkland. It's just not feasible. The replacement land has to be in South Norwalk. It can't be anywhere. And it can be the area that we've always been talking about behind the community college and everything else. So through the three years we worked on this project, we went out to acquire 2 pieces of property, 4 Tito Court and 10 Tito Court. And 10 Tito Court, it's a industrial industrial zone, and you had uses in there a little bit. They have a car repair place and a contractor yard. There are some contamination. We have a phase 1, phase 2 report on it already, and it's not substantial. It's really just gasoline, oil from the car. It's minimum. We estimate about 40 grand to remove it, 40 or 50 grand. This is a couple of years ago. So it's not like a highly contaminated site. It is from just the vehicle residual petroleum product, and we don't believe most of it's asphalted, so it doesn't go down deep anyway. So at this point, with us looking at with that project, that location being not a suitable location for a new school, I think we want to start discussion about getting rid of properties and put this property back on tax roll. So we don't, the city, generally speaking, at staff level, we don't believe there's any use, city have any use for this property. So we want to bring it to the attention of the committee to see whether we want to consider selling this property. If the committee do decide that it's a good idea to move on and sell the property, the next step is just schedule a public hearing for next month.
And just one thing that Alan and I have talked about is, as we go through this process, certainly my preference that it doesn't get turned over into another, heavy industrial. Well, it's not heavy industrial, but industrial to the extent we can avoid that. Then maybe we can put an RFP out there to get people with other uses for the property, and not as I said, not industrial, something away from a contractor yard, that type of thing. But the first step is to put out public hearing.
Chairman Livingston, I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have to make that decision right now? I think it would benefit us if we had some discussion, maybe in an executive session about possible uses that the city could use, or do we have, we're on a time deadline that we have to do it now?
Well, and Alan can correct me if I'm wrong, we're not actually agreeing to sell it. We're soliciting public input on the possible sale. Right, Alan? So
right,
we're not,
right. It's way before anything. I mean, I think typically this is what happens. If the committee is considering a possibility of selling the property, I will issue a letter to all the department heads asking whether the city had any needs for the property. At the same time, we hold a public hearing. We hear the public. At the same time, we will hear from the member of the common council, just like we are now. And so, if the council decide that the other uses for this property, everything stops. So we're not taking any action tonight. The only action is just schedule a public hearing. So it's not action that we are deciding or not. We just want to get opinions right now.
Okay.
Ms. Young, do you have a hand up?
Yeah, so I think to Councilwoman Ayers' question, I would say that there was an idea of possibly a community garden in that area, or it might be part of the parcel that was turned into a park, and it might be that same piece of land. And I also know that the church or folks close by were interested in that property, because I think it was something that they were concerned about initially with the sale, with the purchase of the use of that land. And so I think to Ms. Ayers' concern, if it's something that could be held off a little bit, so there could be a little bit more discussion among council members themselves, might be helpful. Even before you put it out there publicly, might be a helpful thing. Because I think at one point, Alan, I may have mentioned it to you about it, the possibility of using that space for a community garden for, I'm not sure if I talked to a lot of people about it, but for the residents at Rudner Court in particular. But that's my only concern or question about that.
Thank you. Ms. Alterman?
Sorry, I'll lower my hand so I don't forget. I echo the same thing. I didn't know what she was going to say, but I think there's actually potential for that land, especially given that it's hard to accrue new land. I would prefer if we can just like at least have a discussion within the council before we put it out to everybody's input. Everybody knows I'm going to be a huge advocate for a community garden, especially for Rudner Court. So if it's possible, it doesn't seem like a hard ask here. So if it's possible, if we could have at least one discussion before, asking for the rest of the city's input, I think that would be a good move.
How does the rest of the committee feel? I'm okay with putting off at least a month. I mean, Alan, is there any reason we need to do this?
No. I can put it back on the committee agenda for next month for discussion. And after discussion, if the committee wants to proceed with some process, then we can suspend the rule and take up action if we need to proceed. But yeah, I'd be happy to. And then yeah, if you have any specific interest, let me know, or let Councilman Livingston know, so we can start kind of formulate some of this idea or respond to your suggestion to see what options, what we can do or cannot do for whatever reasons.
Ms. Ayers?
You know what? I'm quick on my feet, so I'm so sorry, Alan. But I also think as a council, as we are trying to just project our agenda and stuff, we might want to look into tiny homes. That I'm not quite familiar of the parcel, how big that parcel of land is, but another use could be tiny homes. We started conversations about vertical gardening, which is not done in the ground, but going upward. So I think that if we could continue the conversation, it would benefit the city more than us just being so quick to let it go.
That's fine. So let's everybody bring ideas or send them to Alan to the extent we get them in advance. That would help the discussion, but let's just think about it.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on process. You want us to email our suggestions or our ideas to Alan, and then we'll see it on the agenda for next month?
No, yeah, just email to me, and then so that I can just kind of consolidate, and then maybe I'll email you the member committees. I think what I do is I try to collect the ideas and then do a memo, kind of summarize some of the ideas and stuff, so that when we come to a meeting, there's a little bit of an agenda item that has some of these thoughts that we have. And then again, it wouldn't be my thought; it would be just kind of extending your
sort of a structure to talk about.
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
And I think the fundamental reason we bring this now is so that we can start this conversation. If there's an interest of using probably something else, then we can talk about it. Because I think bringing it to the committee's attention is something that to generate a discussion. So.
Yep, Ms. Altman.
Yeah, it's my last comment. I think especially given the mental health crisis going on, pre and during COVID, I would really like to look into different uses for this land. I've been doing some stuff, not specifically about this land, but I've talked to a couple of you. There's big opportunities for things that the city doesn't have to pay for. So I'm just in support of and thanking you guys for pushing it back.
No problem. Okay, so we'll plan on that. Okay, let's just keep moving then. Next item is a review request to amend Norwalk Senior Center's lease for Roosevelt Center to include room number 8 and refer the following to the Common Council. Authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute an amendment to the lease agreement with the Norwalk Senior Center for the use of Roosevelt Center at 11 Allen Road to include room number 8 as part of the lease premises. All remaining terms of the lease to remain unchanged. Do I have a motion? Who is it? Ms. Ayers, thank you.
Real quickly, I thought Beatrice Lane may be at the meeting, but she said she was attending, but I don't see her name up here. In any event, it's pretty straightforward. The the Norwalk Senior Center leases portion of Roosevelt Center for 20 some odd years, whatever it is already. And they always lease everything on the old portion of the building except one room that was leased to a different organization, which has since dissolved. So they want to capture that room and put it to their use. It's just room number 8. I have a memo, sorry, a backup memo that explains some a little more detail, not that much detail, but it's somewhat straightforward. They, generally speaking, they have a almost exclusive use of that area already. It's just one more room that they want to occupy, so they want to do it technically so that we can add it onto the lease agreement.
Good evening, everyone. It's Beatrix. I am on the call.
Hi, Beatrice.
Hi, Beatrice.
Hi,
Do you wanna-
everyone.
Do you want to add anything to that? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Good evening, Chairman Livingston, Common Council members, committee members, and all participants of this call. Alan did a beautiful job of summarizing. We are just looking to add room 8 to our purview to provide added space for our outreach services. We provide benefits assistance, home visits, Meals on Wheels, personal reassurance by telephone, caregiver and bereavement support groups, among other activities in our outreach services. And in the past year, we provided services to about 4,000 seniors. So it would just be an excellent use of space, and we are asking for use of the added space.
Any questions? Mr. Burnett?
Thank you, Chairman. I guess my only question is, how is room 8 being utilized currently?
As a storage space for food boxes that we store. In the past year or two, the city had asked us to take on delivering food boxes from what used to be Connecticut Food Bank, which is now Connecticut Food Share, I believe. And so basically it's just been used as storage since the other agency folded.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Yeah, thank you. Unanimous. Thank you, Beatrix. Sorry to
Thank
make
you,
you sit through all
everyone.
this.
Tom,
Have a good-
I
Thank
think
you
the
very
last
much.
two item 4 and 5, I think we can take it after the executive session so we don't hold up the other members of Common Council.
Can't we do those pretty quickly?
Okay, if you want to.
I mean, I think we can, I mean, first is review the request from property owner at 16 Owlview Avenue to acquire city-owned property abutting the rear of their property. And if we want to have a schedule, the question is, do we want to have a public hearing? Alan?
Yeah, there's attached to the agenda, there's a little site plan showing the area. It's really landlocked between 95 and the adjacent property owners. It's just really no value to it. It's not buildable. It's a very small piece of property. Only thing is that it buts two pieces of property, two adjacent property owners. So since one of them wants it, I asked them whether they want to approach the neighbor to see if they want the other portion of it. The initial verbal thing I got back from them was that the neighbors are interested in it. So I think it's simpler that we just get rid of the property, and because again, there's landlocked. There's no use for anybody except the adjacent property owners.
How big is it?
It's very small. So I gotta look it up. I'm sorry.
And there's no public access, right?
No.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's a few hundred feet. It's really.
So it's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's I don't have it down here. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's very small.
Any comments from the committee? Thoughts?
How did we end up with that little piece of land?
Yeah, we think it's part of the whole 95 construction of 95. Somehow when 95 came through back in, when was that, 50s or whatever it was, they do a whole bunch of land acquisitions, and there's residual property. Somehow some of these lands become surplus, and sometimes the city gets them, and sometimes like this one, they just fall behind. And it could be used to be part of a road, could be possibly the end of a street kind of thing. So at this point, it's I'm not even sure it's worth the money, a title search. In terms of pricing, I would look at the land assessor's record to see what is typically a square foot price per cost per the market value for per square foot of land. And I just do a multiply on it and just figure out some number, and that would be it. It's pretty, it's not, it's just, we really don't need another little piece of property to, whatever.
And it's I'm looking at the sheet here. It's the owner at number 16 that wants it.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All
I think
right.
because I'm sorry, because I think they have a little shed in the back. I think they may not meet zoning requirements and tearing it down, so that's why he's asking for it.
All right. Well, I'd like to propose that we do move this to public hearing at the next regular scheduled meeting of the committee in February. I'll call for a vote on that. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Okay, thank you. All right, last item here before the executive session is review bid results for the replacement of the rooftop mechanical units at the police headquarters and refer the following to the Common Council. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Tucker Mechanical Inc. for the replacement of 4 rooftop mechanical units at police headquarters for a total not to exceed $389,935. Count noted. And B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $38,993.50. Do I have a motion? Ms. Sayers again, thank you. Okay, Alan.
Yeah, very quickly. Police headquarters building is constructed around 2003. The building, generally speaking, has 5 rooftop units. And generally speaking, we call them 24/7 building. And most buildings do operate all day long and night, but at the same time, the users are a little more active even on weekends. So these kind of runs regularly. So it's been almost 20 years, and a couple of units has been experienced a lot of problem the last couple of years. So we requested money to take care of one of them 2 years ago, and we replaced that one already. And we got money left this year for the other 4 units. So we want to get them replaced. The new unit will also include new controls for energy efficiencies, so we want to do this in the springtime because the mechanical unit we need to do it before the summer season comes. So really, it's a spring construction, shoulder season construction project. So with that, that's pretty straightforward. This will complete all the replacement of all 5 units.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, Alan. Okay. Before we go into executive session, does everybody have the link? Okay, so I'd like to get a motion to move to executive session to discuss legal memorandum file number WD 50400-0153 of Assistant Corporation Counsel Darren L. Callahan, dated December 29, 2021, Ray land acquisition. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Human. Okay.
Also, Telesco's hand is up.
Oh, yes.
I just need to know if you want me to stay on the line or if Alan will take the notes and send me when you come out and such.
Yeah, we can do that.
I can do that. I just give you the vote to adjourn the meeting and the time. And also, do we have to actually physically leave this and then come back? Actually, we have to press leave, right?
Yeah, we have to leave the meeting, but we need a motion. We need to vote on this motion first before we do that. So all in favor of the motion? Go to executive session? Okay, unanimous. Okay, so everybody, we'll meet again in a moment in the executive session.
That was quick and easy done.
4,
Everybody's
5.
back. Oh,
who we lose?
Heidi.
Heidi.
Can you guys hear?
Yes.
Okay, say something, someone.
Oh, you can't hear?
I can't hear.
Hi, Tom. Tom.
I can't hear. All right. All right.
We can hear everybody. So Heidi's back.
Okay, so we're back. Okay, so it is now 10:33. We've just come out of executive session. No actions were taken or votes taken. And with that, I think unless there's Any further discussion? I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Ms. Ayers has made a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jim and
Right. Thank you.
Alan and Darren. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for your
Sure,
patience.
thanks.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Take care. Good night.
Bye.